Well, Mr. Osita Chidoka is still with us in the studio, and just before we went on break, he was talking about nation building. What precisely do you think we should be doing to build a nation?
Well, I first have to go back again and said, part of the reason why I think democracy is such a wonderful option for a multi-ethnic and multi-religious society like Nigeria is when I heard the Chief of Army Staff said, we did not declare IPOB a terrorist organization. It is the government that will do so. We just aired an opinion. That kind of gives me hope that that's the beauty of democracy, because the military had no such powers. Same thing with the Governors Forum. They had no powers to proscribe the IPOB. There are legitimate processes. And I believe
they have no powers to prescribe IPOB?
Yes, the Governors Forum is not a body that can prescribe IPOB.
But the governors individually can't they?
Well, you have to prescribe what you registered. Or you have to prescribe if you're in a state, and you have to go through the legislative process. You have to go through a legal process. So if the governors individually in their states decides to go through that process, then that will be legitimate. The beauty of democracy and a written constitution is that every crime, nobody can be charged for a crime that has not been written down. So, and I'm happy that that democratic temperament, despite the initial outburst, has come back. The military have said, the government will follow the process. And once the government follows the process, I'm totally in alignment, because democracy is legitimate. The government in power is legitimate.
You'll be in alignment with the prescription of IPOB?
If they follow the process, yes. If the government follows the process.
Do you think it has become such a dangerous organization that...
That is immaterial to me, what I think about it. But what I'm talking about is that IPOB will then have an opportunity to protest that in court. I'm not a member of IPOB, so it will be for them to go to court and argue that we are not a dangerous organization.
But you are from the Southeast, and you have seen the activities of IPOB. You definitely must have an opinion in terms of the activities of IPOB so far.
My attitude to the activities of IPOB goes back to the earlier comments I made, that once there is a disconnect between the political leadership and the followership, other institutions will intervene. And bringing it back to the nation building, once we destroyed our national institutions like the trade union, the students' union, and all other pan-Nigerian organizations, it then means that people had to retreat to another category of identity, which is the ethnic category. So the issue of economy, the issue of working class and the ownership class was reduced back again to the issue of race, of identity. Now, in the issue of the Southeast, the feeling by the people of the South is that they are not being represented well by their political leadership, that their political leadership is not communicating to the government how they feel about the issues in Nigeria, meant that they will find an alternative. So it meant that IPOB can easily enter into that loop and begin to get sympathies and followership.
Do you think that its methods were justified, though?
Well, the methods they've been following has been non-violent, but it was going to get to the point when people were going to ask IPOB, as it was already happening, okay, so you've made the protest and all that, so what next? You need to either stop this or do something. For me, as a member of United Progressive Party, I am of the view that if IPOB believe firmly that the issues of the Igbo nation has not been discussed well in Nigeria, they should join the political process. They should decide to either support candidates, or they should decide to form a political party of their own, or they should decide to support a political party. I do not agree that you can argue the issues of Nigeria outside the legitimate organs of states. So if, for instance, our argument is that the Igbo states are marginalized, we need a new state, then let us introduce a bill in the National Assembly using the process in the Constitution for state creation. Let's stop. We shouldn't just be talking about it on the streets. There are processes to be followed. So I think that, and I'm fundamentally of that view, that what we need is a political leadership that is bold, that is able to engage the other parts of Nigeria, build coalitions. I mean, we saw Governor Tinubu become the only governor of ACN, Alliance for Democracy, remaining in Lagos. And from Lagos again, he launched out to form into the Ogun State, Oyo. They all became ACN states. And eventually he teamed up with CPC to form an APC that is in power today. We've also seen a situation in the country where that the APC in government has formed a government without majority of the Igbo votes. The Igbo votes were not for APC. Now, So we shouldn't lament because the whole country elected Obasanjo without Yoruba votes. So what we need to do today is to go back, replan, redo our base together, and see whether there are other parts of the country that are in alignment with our worldview.
I'm sure you must be speaking to other, stakeholders in the Southeast, and some people might say that you might be able to have access to IPOB members. If you've spoken with them, are they, do they share this view? Are they buying it, or are they saying it is Biafra or nothing?
No, even the idea of referendum was part of the idea of referendum is part of the question I raised with leadership of IPOB. So how do you want to achieve Biafra? There must be a legitimate legal process to follow. Are you going to fight a war? The Southeast does not want war. We will not support anybody fighting wars in the Southeast. So they came up with the idea of referendum. When they came up with the idea of no election in Anambra, I thought again that was wrong. You cannot not have an election. If you want to have a referendum, it is for the National Assembly members from the Southeast to introduce that in the National Assembly as an amendment to our Constitution. Then, until the country says, no, we will not accept this as part of our Constitution, before you think about other strategies to use to draw attention to your issue. But you cannot, from day one, say no election, referendum from who? We need to go to the National Assembly and introduce that bill. That is why the leadership that has to come out of Igbo land today has to be a leadership that is in tune with the people, reflects their hopes and aspirations, and at the same time convey the imperatives of using the democratic process to build a nation where no man is oppressed.
There are those who argue, and I've heard this argument before, I think it was propounded by Mr. Soludo the last time I heard it, Mr. Chukwuma Soludo, former CBN governor, who said that there is nothing, that even if this talk of marginalization and this talk of, not being properly represented, our son did not bring home development to us, that is not the fault of the people who go into government. It is the fault of the structure. It is the way things are structured in Nigeria. Do you share that view?
Well,
or do you think that the people should actually carry as they can?
No, it's a mixture of both, because there are politics and even human behavior is about incentives. What incentives do you have for good behavior in a situation where society rewards bad behavior? So if election time comes and what people will react to is those that brought projects to their village, you say, what did you bring to our place? And that is the basis of your election. Then there is no incentive for people to do that which is right, but to do that which, because democracy is a four-year election cycle. So everybody is focused on the 4 years. I think substantially, if Nigeria wants to go into a development phase, we have to do away with the two-term governorship and presidential election. We need to go back to a single term, where people in office cannot use the resources of state to plan for their re-election, instead of planning about what will be good for the country going forward.